All right, so Rick, you and I have done Just Good Football Players, versions 1 and 2. Thankfully, we have Josh Pate here to do version 3. I'm going to give his list, and Josh, you can highlight a guy that you like on this, and we'll have Rick push back. We'll see if he treats you like he treats me.
I agree, Josh, with everything.
No, he does
I haven't
not.
even seen the list yet.
So Josh's list is Devin Achane. We've talked about him several times today, the running back out of Texas A&M. He hasn't run yet, but it's going to be a blazing time. Derek Hall, the edge rusher out of Auburn, and Deion Henley, a guy that I know that Rick likes. We've talked about him previously in the podcast, out of Washington, the linebacker there. Give me one of those guys that you're really excited about.
The Hall guy at Auburn, I go to because got to see him in person a lot. Didn't get to see Henley as much in person, and by as much I mean I've never seen him in person.
Right.
But Derek Hall, what stood out to me is he played on poor teams most often, and yet the motor. You know, that's what I noticed, the hard-nosed play. And they got a couple of guys. Owen Papo is another guy on that team who played that way. Both of these guys were highly touted coming out of high school. I look at those guys the way I look at probably Achane for an offensive reason. I look at them on underachieving teams. I look at them as playing on underachieving units. And I always wonder, sometimes it doesn't pan out this way, but I always wonder how much more juice is left in that squeeze that program didn't get out. And that's either in performance, or it could be developmentally, or it could be a combination of both, as it usually is. So with Hall, love his length, love his pass rush ability, struggled against the run, and he and Henley I both look at as a guy I wonder, is he a little more raw still maybe than some people expect? And I know you don't want to draft a guy and then have to develop him several years, but I always watched Derek Hall and thought, that's a really good football player, which is the literal name of this segment, and that's why I went with that. Derek Hall.
Let me ask you this before you answer, Rick, because I think that Josh makes a good point, and you could make that point for Will Levis, a player on a football team that struggles for various reasons. People like to make excuses for Will Levis. Do you take that into consideration when you're doing the evaluation about the program that you're coming from and what was asked of that person in that program?
Yeah, you take consideration of the program, but for your point is when you watch all these guys and the opportunity to see all those guys, although Achane, I don't think he catches the ball well enough. But the one thing that I really noticed about him was for a small back that's as fast as he is, a lot of times those guys don't want to put it up inside. They like to bounce it out and try to outrun the defenders. This guy puts his foot in the ground and is not afraid to take it up. And I just want to see, and I'm anxious to see him work out and how he catches the ball and how natural he is at catching the ball.
Day two guy, Achane?
Oh, yeah, definitely day.
I feel like two.
Yeah. Not better than my guy Gibbs, but he's a day.
Okay.
I think we were doing a comparison earlier today on another show, which is also housed on this network, but they put up a blind resume. And we actually looked at a stat profile that you and I thought may be Bijan Robinson because of the rushing yardage, and it ended up being Devon Achane's. And to Rick's point, earlier this year, we were doing an episode of Late Kick where we did something similar, but it was one of the advanced metrics between the tackles yardage, and it stunned me. And I had watched him, but it still stunned me how much work he had done between the yardage, which speaks to your point, and I think it kind of flies in the face of what the more stereotypical profile is out there of him.
Yeah, every time you got the profile in your head, small guy, fast, not going to go up there with the big bodies. He's always going to use his speed to outrun everybody. But he was the exact opposite. He's a small back that plays like a big back.
So Derek Hall, I think he's a top 60 guy. I don't know. I think we're a little far apart on that, but I agree with Josh. He's a really good football player, athletic.
So you're bringing in reinforcements to beat up on me tonight.
Yes. By the way,
I don't have to worry about these guys after they leave college, so there's no consequence.
And by the way, Rick, this reinforcement's a little better shape than me, so you might be in trouble.
Well, he was describing you what you probably ate after high school games.
Yeah, it was a lot of spaghetti meatballs. By the way, I just found out via producer Debo here, unofficially Henley ran a 4.63. Off-ball linebacker. That feels pretty fast. Is that fast enough?
Yeah, that's fast. These guys, as long as they're not running 4.8s, 4.9s, if these guys are in the 4.6s, that's more than fast enough. But when you watch these guys, it's great to get that measurement, but you have to really, what is their play speed? Because play speed and time speed could be two different things.
But
you could have guys.
Like Henley.
I love Henley. He's one of my just good football players.
Right.
So, and he was, I believe, a former receiver that converted to linebacker.
Receiver and defensive back.
Yeah, and what you see is he is a modern-day NFL linebacker that has to be able to play on all three downs. And not only can play the run, he can run sideline to sideline, but he's an excellent athlete in coverage.
He also feels like a day two guy for me.
everybody's a day 2 guy for you. Day 1, I don't know why you watch anyone, because you got 350 guys that are going between the first, second, and third rounds. There's no fourth rounders.
You see how they treat me, Josh? Josh has been here 2 days, and he said to me on the side, he said, I'm sorry for what you have to go through. And I appreciate
I patted him on the head. I did all of you.
But just think how much money you get paid to get abused on the air.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's not
That's the problem, he said.
What are we doing? But so I think honestly though, I think we all like Achane. You have the concerns about catching. I think he's pretty good in that area. But as you and Pete Prisco tell me, I love everyone, and that's okay. But I think this is a great list. It fits right into our just good football players list.